Assalamu alaikum. This is another program where you are asked to, the program will ask you to input 10 different codes of different items. Basically, it is a unique 5-digit code. Okay, and the first digit will identify the type of code. For example, if this is one of the code and you know it starts with 1, so that one identifies that this item is a biscuit. And if that code starts with 3, that means it's a chocolate. Okay. And in the same way, the code 2 is for the juices, and your program will identify exactly which item this code belongs to. For example, the user enters this first code, and that code your program will identify using this first digit. Okay, this must be a 5-digit code, and the first digit will be used for identifying that item. And as I have already mentioned, that the first one will identify this is the code for a biscuit. Okay, and any code starting with 2, okay, that code is for the chocolate, and any code starting with 3, that is the juices. So user will be asked to input these 10 codes. Okay, I have added only 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can just assume the user will enter 10 different codes, and at the end your program will tell how many of these codes belongs to the biscuits, and how many were for juices, and how many for the chocolates. Okay, so before starting you have to use different variables. Let me write a few variables for counting these different codes. For biscuits, I can simply use base as a short name, or you can write the full name as well. Okay, and for the chocolate, I'm just using CHO. And for the juices, I am just using GUI. Okay, and then I will start a loop. Okay, as I've already told you why I'm using to use a loop here, because you need to enter 10 different codes. Okay, that means the user will input 10 times the different codes. For this repetition, we are going to use a loop. If we don't use loop, the user will only be allowed to enter only once. So for count in range, as you already know, this is a loop, and the starting is 0 to 10. That shows the end of the loop. Okay, this loop will run 10 times. Now the first thing we do is taking the input from the user. Okay, and you can use anything, like I'm using the word code, int input, enter code, and the user will input the code, and now we will check whether this code belongs to which item. Okay, as you know, let me explain it using here. Let's say this is the first code, a 5-digit code. Okay, starting with 1. Okay, and what is the last number? A 5-digit code that starts with 1, and this will be the last number. Okay, 199. Because if we add one number into this code, that code will become this one, and this will be starting with 2. Okay, so our first range is this one. Okay, so this is the mechanism that we are going to use here in the program. So let's write now. If code is greater than or equals to 10000, it's a 5-digit. Okay, and the code is less than 20,000, that means the last code is 19999, then that means this code belongs to a biscuit. So we are counting 1 in the biscuit counter. So here it is. And then I will use elif. That means if maybe the code is not starting with 1, so we have to check other conditions as well. If the code is greater than equals 20,000, that means the first code starts, the first 5-digit code that's starting with 2 is 20,000. And the code is less than like 30,000. Okay, and this will be chocolate. And for the chocolate, I've used its counter CHO. So always you will increment 1. Every time it will count to 1. And if the code is greater than equal to 30,000 and the code is less than 40,000, okay, that means this code belongs to a juice. So I will increment juice counter. So these are the counter. They will count every time any condition is true. Whenever the user enters the code here, that I will run the program, and then you will come to know, okay, how this works. But as soon as the user enters the code, that will be tested against these conditions. So whatever the condition is true, that counter will be incremented. Okay, maybe this condition is true. It depends on whatever the user is entering. Maybe this condition is true. If this condition is true only, then CHO counter will be incremented. If the third condition is true, then juice counter will be incremented. Okay, but there are chances that the user might enter any other code except these starting with 1, 2, 3. So for that sort of issue, you can simply write, okay, print invalid code. So as soon as the user enters any other code other than 1, 2, or 3, then it will display it's an invalid code. Okay, now I'm ending the loop because now this code is running for 10 times. So now I will print the result here. So print number of biscuits equals. So I will just display biscuit counter here. And then in the same way, I will print the other two results. Number of, what was the second one? It was the chocolate. Chocolate, number of chocolates equals to, and chocolates counter was CHO. And in the same way, the last thing was for number of juices, so that juices equals, here I'm just displaying its code. Here it is. Now let's run this code and then see whether it is showing correct answer. Okay, for the first time, whenever you run the code, here's a run option, or you can simply press F5 to run the code. So I'm just using this option. So first time it will ask you to save that code somewhere. By default, it is saving in the Python's default folder, but you can change that folder as well. I'm just writing it codes starting with 1, 2, or 3, whatever name you can, but the name should be relevant so that you can search your program anytime. Okay, here it is running. It is asking the user. So now only this thing that the user will see. Okay, user cannot see your actual code, your program. Okay, user can only see this screen. Now I'm entering, for example, first I'm just entering a random code. It says invalid code because this code is not starting with 1, 2, or 3. No, let's start any code with 2, and it should be a 5-digit code. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, it is accepted. It has counted that it will display at the end of the program. Now I'm starting with any other code. So as far as I enter any invalid code, it says invalid code because 7 wasn't allowed. Okay. So now I'm starting with 2. So I have to count the number of digits as well so that it should be a 5-digit code. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 5-digit code, and then a few for 3-digit code as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now it says number of biscuits were 2, number of chocolates were 4, and number of juices were 2. So let's see. Biscuits, the code starts with 1. So we have entered this one and this one. Okay, the answer is correct. And the chocolates code starting with 3. Was it 3? No, it was starting with 2. Okay, as you can see from the, okay, let's count now. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes, it is correct. And the juice code was starting with 3. So 1 and 2. Yes, the answer is correct. So it shows the correct answer. That means the code is working correctly. Okay, thank you.